guys, and welcome to another edition of our Wrestling Pulse. I'm my partner Ryan. I'm J-Man, and this edition of the Pulse is going to give you our Pulse Topix show. We told you guys we wanted to get one out every month or so, and we're a little bit over that date, but we're there for us, our standards. Again, we got 3 topics here. We're kind of going to try and focus on the topic show we did back on the IWR show. We kind of made it just 3 random kind of topics that we put together. It could have been from 3 from one company, 2 and 1, or 3 from all kind of the bigger companies, obviously WWE, TNA, and ROH. We're going to kind of stick on this show to kind of at least get one from each of the 3 big companies, and that's what we're going to do here as well. So we got 3 of them for you. First topic starting out, we're going to be talking about Ryback. Everybody else is talking about him, and I guess it's now time for the Pro Wrestling Pulse to talk about him. His just massive monster push that obviously got him to the WWE title matchup at Hell in a Cell, obviously via the John Cena injury being the kind of backup plan there, but obviously his push has just skyrocketed from the last couple months, obviously beating those kind of just local jobbers and having the 3 and 4 and 5 guys come in there, and that's where the whole Feed Me More and everything started, and his kind of persona and his kind of whole thing just kicked off from there. And it really shocked me of how much people got behind him, because as I said in the Hell in a Cell preview, it's just such that typical kind of blah kind of character, at least to me, because I'm more of I love the personalities that each kind of individual wrestler could kind of shows, and like kind of not having to rely on a character, just relying on their own self-interest really, and how they're really interesting in their own personalities. That's really kind of what I've always been intrigued about. But obviously this kind of character that's kind of went back to almost like a Goldberg-esque kind of character, that monster guy that goes out there and kills everybody in seems 30-45 seconds or something like that. And that's what we got here. WWE's been wanting to find maybe one of those new kind of characters, obviously with John Cena's age getting up there, and looking like he might be going to do more and stuff here and there, and they're trying to find some bigger talent, obviously, and they've wanted to go with kind of guys here and there, but they're not really. WWE's problem has always been they don't really want to pull the trigger with anybody. They're kind of scared and apprehensive about it, but this is one of those guys that seems like it could have been one of those Tensais, it could have been one of those Brodus Clays that they kind of just drop the ball with, and I don't really feel like going with them. But this is a guy that they've continued to roll with here, and as we've seen in obviously that WWE title matchup that he was in. So he's gotten to the precipice now. He's been in obviously some big matches, and he's now to the point to where he's looked at and regarded as obviously a main eventer. He's obviously in the traditional Survivor Series tag matchup coming at Survivor Series, which will probably be the main event of that one as well, and he's looked at as now as CM Punk's kind of guy that he's going up against, obviously with John Cena's injury, which I've never been a John Cena guy, but as of the last couple years, I have come to respect the hell out of him, of his work rate and what he's done in his later parts of his career now, and what he's produced in the ring, which is in the end what I care about. I don't care about his character. I don't care about what he's doing here or there. But I care about what he can produce in the ring, which is some amazing stuff when he's in there with the guys like a CM Punk or like those kind of caliber guys. But definitely was missed in that Hell in a Cell match. In my opinion, it would have been tremendous if he was in there with CM Punk. But we got Ryback and his push that will continue and continue and cease to never exist or never end actually.
Never end, yeah. There's something about guys who just go out there and just kick people's asses and then just take off. It worked with Goldberg, it worked with Lesnar. Lesnar was kind of a guy where, I guess WWE thought he needed a mouthpiece, like, with Paul Heyman. He was kind of that beast. Same thing with Goldberg, same thing with Lesnar, same thing with all those big type guys. A lot of those guys are just big type muscly guys, they can't talk. Ryback's kind of in that same mold. Fans get behind him because he is that kind of just badass looking, RoboCop Terminator type guy, and he goes out there, kicks ass, leaves, and then everyone's like, oh shit, he just beat that dude's ass, that's it, So in some circumstances, it's hard to build a guy that way because, once he gets in the ring with the actual high caliber type guys like Cena and Punk and those main event type guys, they have a problem because they don't want to make him look like a bitch, but they don't want to let him win. They don't want to let him win the title because they don't think he's ready or, whatever it is. And that's the case we had at Hell in the Cell, which is exactly what I thought was going to happen. I've had several people ask me, what'd you think of the booking? You think they did the right move? You think they did the wrong move? Yada, yada this, yada that. I think for the long-term situation, I think the booking of the match was done right, and I think that, it had to be done like that. You couldn't let Ryback beat Punk because it would just, up until now, that would have completely killed any credibility he had as a champion, as a wrestler in the company, would have made him look absolutely asinine. And on the other hand, you would have had Ryback win the title, who was not ready for it, could not, be the champion, carry it, do the promotional stuff. Like even Sheamus is 4 or 5 steps ahead of Ryback, when it comes to being a main eventer. And I think Ryback is one of those guys that could get to that level. I think, it's almost like, I'm calling it Jack Swagger syndrome, where, they pull the trigger too soon on these guys and they give them the title and, they realize it's not going to work for them.
Yeah.
And in other cases, you look at a guy like Ziggler, who we talked about, who's been floating around for years, and this is a guy that, literally, the bullet's already out of the gun, and it's just going in slow motion.
Yep.
And it's really like, there's nothing they can do. I mean, you look at a guy like that, they just won't do it. They won't pull it on him. They don't think he's ready. But they'll just give it to Ryback, which kind of doesn't make sense to me.
Nope.
I think the fans being behind the idea of Ryback and how he wrestles and this and that, and it's not just women and children that like him. Adults in our age like him. Like I've said this before, I want to like Ryback. I do. I want to like him. I want to like a character like him. There's something ominous and mysterious about a character who just doesn't talk, who's just a badass, kick-ass type guy who just goes over there. But in today's wrestling, I guess there is people who enjoy that, but people who are real fans have been fans for years, like me and J-Man here. We, it's just the same old, and it gets old, and there's nothing you can do about it. I expect to see some good stuff going in here at Survivor Series. I'm glad they made this a 5-on-5 Survivor Series. They didn't try to, because they couldn't have done anything else until after, or went into December and TLC pay-per-view or whatever. So, it's interesting to see what they're going to do here. Continue this little deal with Punk and Ryback. Maybe they'll do another match in December. Hopefully, maybe they'll put a stipulation on it. It seems like that's the only way they can really almost make it seem like Punk would beat Ryback without making him look like a bitch. Yeah. So, interesting to see what they're going to do. But Ryback push here. Don't hate it. Don't love it either. So it's kind of on the fence.
And I wanted to quickly mention. Obviously, I liked what you said about Ziggler and how it's almost like he's one of those guys that you don't look at a Ryback and you think as soon as he comes in and he's doing his whole thing, you're like, all right, he's going to go to the moon and all this kind of stuff. You see that, but when you see a Dolph Ziggler with how much people are behind him, and there are a lot of those kind of characters that a lot of those kind of guys that you see that are like just that guy's going to be huge in the future. He's going to be one of those main event guys that you look at, the future kind of athlete that you kind of want to have in a Dolph Ziggler that you look like, and they just never want to pull the triggers with those kind of guys, but they want to pull the triggers with with the guys kind of like Ryback, which is always just makes no sense to me. But as you said, we'll see Ryback's push continue and how far it goes, where it ends up going. I don't know. The only thing I want to see is in my opinion, when it finally fizzles off and he becomes a comedic act, which all kind of things end up becoming. We've seen it with Kozlov and Great Khali and all of those kind of guys. When it kind of fizzles off, which I end up seeing. I just want to see just a thing just in the back, just to where he's just scarfing down a tire, just eating tires.
Eating tires?
I just think he eats tires.
I mean, I don't know if I told you the story about Ryback at the Chili's.
I didn't know.
Before he was Ryback.
Okay.
I sat next to Ryback at a Chili's in Kentucky, and and at the time I didn't know who he was, but I was like, this guy is massive.
Got jacked.
And he legitimately ate like 17 like mozzarella sticks.
I mean, did he have marinara? He had to have marinara sauce.
No marinara, just raw dogged them.
Dude, who eats?
He didn't even chew. He didn't even chew them. He just this size mozzarella sticks, just right down his gullet. He didn't chew or nothing. He was just
down.
And then I guess he went and took a piss and then came back and then he had like a hamburger and like a salad. I don't know why he had a salad. It doesn't make any sense.
That is unbelievable. The man is literally a monster in more ways than one.
He drank like 8 raspberry teas. It was intense.
That's immense right there. Next topic up, we're going to be discussing Ring of Honor here and the changes that they made at the booking position, bringing in Delirious outside what was going on with Jim Cornette and everything here and there, and the management been going on, and a lot of, as we talked about in the last topic show, a lot of struggles going on for Ring of Honor. Obviously, their internet pay-per-view quality, their in-ring quality has just not been up to their standards and what we're to expect from Ring of Honor and the greatness that they were in the past. But obviously now we've seen phases here and there of things going on that obviously have the hint of, you know, something intriguing going on and something to be looking forward to in the future for some expectations that hopefully we can get fulfilled here with obviously Delirious now being the booker in Ring of Honor. We obviously saw it the last Internet pay-per-view, which we did watch. Pretty good show. We did watch that. We saw the end, obviously, with Steen retaining the championship, and we saw them open the box with Generico's mask coming out of it. So obviously we have Generico possibly coming back into Ring of Honor. We've seen the push of Jay Lethal winning Survival of the Fittest and now getting I believe a title shot at Final Battle against Kevin Steen for what I thought. I thought we would have probably got a Generico Steen matchup there, but interesting stuff there. But overall, we're kind of seeing the in-ring work, the stuff outside the Internet pay-per-view quality. If we could get the damn streams to continue to work, hopefully cross our fingers for that one. But here and there, we're obviously seeing phases of things that are hopefully looking up for Ring of Honor and Delirious in that big position as Booker in Ring of Honor.
Yeah. I mean, already since he's been booking, I mean, I guess I don't know if they want to give him full credit for the increase of, you know, enjoyment I've had a little bit of Ring of Honor as of late. Survival of the Fittest on television was quite enjoyable. Yeah. You know, the Guardians of Truth were a waste of time, and they finally revealed they were the headbangers. The crowd was all into them as the headbangers. Let them have a little run. You know, do a little this, a little that. If they can prove they can have some quality matches with the Briscoes, I wouldn't mind seeing them a little bit. And overall, just the younger guys getting their shots in. And we both talked to Delirious, after a show here in Collinsville. And, basically we were like, he was already partially booking, and, Cornette was looking over him, saying this and saying that, being his filter. Well, sometimes, we don't need a filter. When you're a guy like Delirious who, has a mind for the business and can really, provide the fans with what they want. I think Delirious is a fan first, then he's a wrestler, then he's a booker. Yeah. So it's like, he thinks about what the fans would want, not over a guy like Jim Cornette who's like, I think about what I want. Yeah. I want this to be how the show should be. Yeah. And, he thinks about how the fans would want it. He knows the fans want to see El Generico. That was one of the worst moves Ring of Honor could have ever done, was got rid of El Generico, and that is purely Jim Cornette's fault, from what I've heard. He just did, doesn't fit the mold of what Ring of Honor was supposed to be. He didn't like guys like Cabana because they were a comedy act. I mean, you look at those two guys right there, were two of the most popular guys in the company at the time, and they just, didn't give a shit about them. But, they have done some good things here and there, guys with Cole and Elgin and different things like that. Steen being champion, it's almost like that situation with Vince and Stone Cold. Maybe he didn't want to make him champion, but he did because he was so damn popular. It's like, Cornette was like, he doesn't fit the mold of who our champion should be. Yeah. But the fans are so heavily behind him. If we didn't give him the title, you could tell that we were just, yanking everyone's chain. Yeah. But I think Delirious booking, I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do here. The last pay-per-view was quite possibly their best show of the year. Yeah. I haven't seen any of their house shows. I've heard nothing about them because I haven't heard they've been good at all. They've just been mediocre. So hopefully we're going to get back to, some what we used to expect out of Ring of Honor, and I think Delirious, like I said, a guy who has a mind for the business and who really, knows what the fans want. When we went to that Collinsville show, he's the booker of Ring of Honor. He wasn't even on the show. He came to the fan meeting and he talked to the fans, and we had a conversation, just a straight up normal, conversation with him about, wrestling, and you could tell the guy loves the business. So that really makes me happy as a Ring of Honor fan to see that, he's got the full commitment as the booker from what we know. So I'm super excited to see what they're going to do with Ring of Honor here. Hopefully they progress. Yeah,
and I think that's smart to mention how Delirious has not only a mind for business, but he has a mind for what Ring of Honor is. I really think Jim Cornette wanted to come in and make it something that wasn't Ring of Honor, and the only way
NWA,
in '85 or something. The only way Ring of Honor is going to succeed is if they stay who they are. We saw it with TNA a couple years ago when Hulk Hogan and Bischoff tried to come in and not make it the alternative of what WWE was. That's what they always have been, and that's how they succeeded back in the early or the mid 2000s, in the 05s and 06s, of the great stuff they were doing there. Not to say they're not doing great stuff now, because they absolutely are, and we'll talk about it here in the last topic. But they want to change it to make it something that it's not, and you don't want to go into Ring of Honor and try to make it just a wash down WWE and bring in Charlie Haas and all this, Shelton Benjamin, all those kind of guys, when you have such, as he said, with Genericos and the Cabanas and those kind of guys, that it's just the Ring of Honor through and through, and people just love these guys. And just to completely disregard your fan base and not even listen to their thoughts and things like that, and just give them what you think they want, which isn't what we actually want, is just, it's asinine. It's absolutely stupid. So it's good to see Delirious is the booker, and hopefully we can get some good stuff moving on in the future with Ring of Honor. Last topic up, we're going to be talking about a topic in TNA, which will be the Aces and Eights. Obviously, one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing going on in TNA as the last couple months. We saw the kind of not so much culmination at Bound for Glory. It was our mistake. You guys are all shitting on us, and not really our mistake when Devon comes out and says, I was behind it all along and gathering up all the troops. And we
went off what we saw.
Yeah,
hey,
we went off what TNA gave us. That's what you told us, TNA. You told us that he was behind it, behind the Aces
3 hours,
and Eights.
2.5 hours, 3 hours.
No, he's not. He's just he's a spokesman. He's a soldier talk guy that doesn't wear a mask.
Put on Twitter, he's not actually the leader.
Whatever. TNA basically backing off, like, maybe we shouldn't have Devon as our leader. Maybe we'll talk about some other guy that's actually the leader, and we'll figure out who that is in some other time. But nonetheless, still obviously a very big thing going on in TNA with the Aces and Eights. Obviously, we've seen it after Bound for Glory with Devon kind of being the spokesperson of it and saying how I believe the president or whatever is speaking down for us and telling us all the things to do, and they have the full access to the Impact Zone. And obviously, the flip of Bully Ray, we all were thinking that Bully Ray could possibly be a leader or something with the Aces and Eights, but now basically flipping him face and now going up against Devon, which has been some really interesting stuff. I absolutely love the promo they cut, I believe, this past week or 2 weeks ago with him in there, which is some really great stuff, and just proving how much Bully Ray has just progressed in his career and transformed himself. We've said it a million times. It's just amazing, and that's all him, too. With the weight he lost, what he gained in the ring, and obviously his mic skills have always been there. So the things he's been doing is worth saying as well, which has been outstanding. But we finally had a reveal of one of the Aces and Eights being Luke Gallows, which was completely obvious since the beginning of Impact, or beginning of the Aces and Eights angle starting. They were going for Sting on this previous Impact, saying he was going to rip off one of the faces of one of the masks of the faces of Aces and Eights. Ended up being Luke Gallows on that Impact and throwing somebody through the table. I can't remember who, but obviously we'll start to get some more reveals or whatever. If they end up they were throwing Wes Briscoe on the side of Angle and TNA and all those kind of guys, we end up seeing him revealed as one of the guys too. It could be interesting to see that. But obviously the intrigue is there for me with the Aces and Eights and what they're doing and what they can do going into the future. It looks like it's going to be a very long and drawn out process of what they're going to be doing, but very intriguing things continuing to go on with the Aces and Eights and TNA.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you look back, I mean, as much shit as we give wrestling for and jumping on the hot thing that's going on in pop culture, the Justin Bieber, Jersey Shore type stuff. Jesse, yeah, just all this stuff. Sometimes a crossover, into wrestling works and makes sense when something's popular going on. It works and fans are drawn to it. I think from the show Sons of Anarchy, going into this storyline being like, Aces and Eights is this, biker type gang, and they're making it like, kind of like the show. I think it works for TNA, and I think it doesn't come off really like douchey. It really is an interesting storyline, and I've actually been following it really. In the beginning I was kind of like, this is but I personally loved the reveal of Devon. It was the shock value of it, and I did not expect it at all. The actual reveal on the pay-per-view was an amazing spot because nobody expected it. But then after the pay-per-view, and then you go to Impact, then you're like, what the fuck are they doing? What are they going to do here? I think they looked at the short-term value of Devon being that kind of character in that role of Aces and Eights, and then after they did a reveal at Bound for Glory, which made a great moment for the show, then they're like, what the hell are we going to do? And we were sitting here when we did the review, and we could not get over it. It was just so funny to us, and I think Aces and Eights is interesting, and I'm hoping that the reveal of whoever the president or whatever it is actually someone important. It's not someone like Devon or someone like Wes Briscoe or somebody like that, yada, yada, yada. It may be somebody else within the company. It may be Jeff Jarrett, we've talked about before, yada, different things like that. But as of right now, it's the longest going, storyline they got going. And, as long as they're putting on good pay-per-views, The storyline's intriguing. I mean, TNA's been rolling with great pay-per-views. The next pay-per-view coming up, Turning Point or whatever it is, it's looking really, really good as well. So as long as they continue these storylines and do a good job here, I'm pretty happy with the storyline. It's not been bothering me. So hopefully we get a good reveal out of this, and we get some kind of ending payoff where they don't just kind of cut it off, and don't make any sense. Where we still don't know who kidnapped Samoa Joe. Maybe it was Ace and Eights.
It was. Maybe.
Who knows? But that's pretty much it. Aces and Eights. Hopefully they continue what they're doing. I'm liking it for the most part.
Yeah, I said absolutely intrigued to see what's going to be going on in the future, and as long as they keep that product, pay-per-view quality stuff that's going on, and obviously the in-ring work that we've seen on Impacts have been definitely better than we've seen in the previous months, and obviously showing some effort to definitely up their game there. And obviously with the intriguing angles you got on the outside of all that in-ring work stuff is good stuff there, and hopefully we can see that continue in TNA into the future. This will now wrap up our Pulse Topic show. For my partner Ryan, I'm J-Man, and thank you for watching another edition of Pro Wrestling Pulse, the Pulse, professional wrestling world.